And you're live.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm William Johnson, Chair of the Baltimore County Blue Ribbon Commission on Ethics and Accountability. It's my pleasure to welcome my fellow commissioners, to welcome our invited speakers and members of the public who are viewing the session tonight for the first meeting of the Baltimore County Blue Ribbon Commission on Ethics and Accountability. During this initial meeting, we are going to get background information about the authority and functions of the offices of Baltimore County Auditor and Baltimore County Inspector General, as well as the Baltimore County Ethics Commission, and review the charge of the commission. And we will also discuss the proposed work plan. Before we get started, I would like to share a few housekeeping items. First being that, as you heard just a moment ago, this session is being recorded. Secondly, the agenda for tonight's meeting was shared with the members of the commission. It was shared directly and it's posted on the commission's website, which is www.blueribbonethics.ubalt.edu. The meeting is scheduled to conclude at 8:30. If we cover the agenda items before then, the meeting will close early. All agendas, minutes, meeting links, and commission materials will be posted on the commission's website. We will not be able to respond to comments or questions posted in the chat. If you have questions or comments that you would like to share after the meeting, you may do so by emailing the commission, and that email link will be posted in the chat, but it is blueribbonethics@ubalt.edu. Again, that will be posted in the chat. There are times during tonight's meeting when commission members will have the opportunity to ask questions or to make comments. If you're on camera and you have a question or you'd like to make a comment, please indicate so by simply raising your hand, and I will be able to acknowledge you. If you're off camera, please use the raise hand function in Zoom, and I will also have an opportunity at that point to acknowledge you. And so with that, it is now my pleasure to invite Ms. Stacey Rogers, who is the Baltimore County Chief Administrative Officer, to greet us.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson and members of the commission, Dr. Cotton, and the members of the Schaefer Center staff who are supporting the commission, and members of the community who are participating. I would like to bring greetings on behalf of our county executive, John Olszewski Jr. He is unable to join us this evening based on a prior commitment, but he would like to let you know that he is so very grateful and thankful for all of the commissioners and your willingness to serve in this important role. The county executive has repeatedly expressed his vision for an open, accessible, and transparent government. As a part of the county's government accountability strategy, the Office of Ethics and Accountability was established. And then subsequent to that, the office transitioned to the Office of the Inspector General. Its purpose is to provide what we look forward to, and in receiving and reviewing the recommendations of the commission. We want to also tap into your knowledge and thoughts about the policies, the alignment, and the best practices for operations of offices of inspectors general, as well as ethics commissions. We sincerely appreciate each of the members' time. We know that your time is valuable, but this is an important step as we look at the county's existing ethics laws and the Office of the Inspector General and our operations and interface with county government. I can't express to you how important it is for me, the county administrative officer, who is charged with oversight for day-to-day operation of county government, that we have an effective and cooperative working relationship with our Office of Inspector General and, of course, the Ethics Commission. I hope that you recognize that we want to ensure that we have a best practice operation, and we look forward to your recommendations to help us in determining what practices, policies, and general operating protocols are needed to achieve a best practice operation. Again, on behalf of the county executive, we want to thank you. We look forward to your recommendations. While members of the Baltimore County staff will not participate in this activity, we know that this is open to the public, and we may have some staff and other individuals from the county who will join in and present questions. I look forward to working with Dr. Cotton in any way she needs support from the county government to ensure that Chair Johnson and all of the commissioners get what they need to make sound recommendations and to have a very thorough, thoughtful discussion across your various meetings. So again, thank you. And we look forward to the outcome of this process in the late fall in December. Thank you, Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers, and by extension, we thank the county executive in his absence for affording each of us this opportunity to serve our county in this effort. And so at this time, I'd like to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves with your name, your title, and a little background on your experience, especially as it relates to the work of this commission. I'll get started, and I really like to start simply by saying that it's an honor just to be selected to chair this commission by County Executive Oshesky. For 10 years, I served as an Inspector General at the Maryland Department, what was then called the Maryland Department of Human Resources. It is now called the Maryland Department of Human Services. And in that role, I gave executive oversight to investigations of allegations of fraud, waste, and abuse on part of employees, recipients of services, and contractors of the department, as well as to our internal financial and program audits and audits of contractors and grantees. And also gave oversight to conducting program and financial reviews as were needed. Prior to that period of time, I served as the Director of Employment and Program Equity for that same department, again, for about 10 years, serving then as the EEO and Fair Practices Officer, and held several similar EEO roles with the Maryland Department of Health and as an investigator with what is now the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. And so I won't bore you with the rest of my resume, but since retiring from state government, I continue as a pastor and also have the honor of serving on the staff of the Johns Hopkins Health System, serving as their community chaplain. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to my fellow commissioners with whom I am honored, truly honored to serve. And to facilitate the introductions, I'm going to call on each member in alphabetical order. And I'd like to start with Commissioner Joanne Antoine.
Hopefully you all could hear me. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you all, and obviously we are grateful to the county executive for inviting Common Cause to be part of the commission, and just for working with us during his term to create greater accountability and transparency within the local government so far. As an organization, we spend, for those who aren't familiar with us, we are nonpartisan. I think in the simplest terms, we focus largely on how our government functions, right? And we're the organization that is really here to ensure that elected and appointed officials, that they are working on behalf of the public's best interest. So the organization, during its 50 plus years of existence, has spent a great deal of time working on ethics laws, supporting creations of the Office of the Inspector Generals, both in Baltimore City, and I believe we played a role here in supporting the effort here in the county as well. So I look forward to working with you all. My national office, just let you know, is also invested in the work that we're doing here and will be providing me with legal support throughout the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Antoine. And next we'll ask Commissioner Brigadier General Janine Burkett.
Hi, good evening. Glad to be with you this evening. My relevant background, I've served as an assistant inspector general in the Army and the Army National Guard, and a graduate of that school. I've also done civil rights work on and off the Department of Interior, Office of Personnel Management at the federal level. I've also served as an investigator and a special agent in charge for 2 different organizations, one within DOD and one within the Office of Personnel Management. And I am glad to be with you and looking forward to serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burkett. Commissioner Judge Kathleen Cox.
Good evening. It's nice to be with everyone. My name is Kathy Cox, and I am a recently retired judge, having served on the Circuit Court for Baltimore County for roughly 23 years. I was the administrative judge overseeing both Baltimore and Harford County for the last 7 of those years. And my involvement in this work is sort of an indirect. I certainly have worked within the judiciary on a number of things involving sort of oversight and public trust and confidence concerns. So I'm looking forward to this work and moving forward in this area.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Glancy, Thomas Glancy.
Yep. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, because I have sound on my laptop, and I mean, I've got a picture on my laptop and no sound, and sound on my phone, but no picture. So in any event, I'm a retired attorney. I was doing mostly personal injury and some civil rights. I've worked on the Law and Public Policy Committee of the ACLU of Maryland, and am a past chair of the board of directors of the Public Justice Center. My only kind of touch with the subject matter here is that I was the ethics attorney for my law firm for about 20 years. And I'm an administrator of Indivisible Towson. I've never been on a commission like this and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glancy. Commissioner John Lauria.
Morning, I mean, good evening, everyone. Sorry, John Lauria. It's very nice to see you all and to join with you in this effort. It's a privilege to be able to serve the county in this way. I am a lawyer in Maryland for about 30 years now. I'm the managing partner of the Baltimore office of our law firm, Ballard Spahr, which is a national firm. We have about 15 offices around the country. So I have whatever general skills a lawyer brings to this kind of task. And in addition, although neither I nor my firm are engaged in any activities that would cause us to register as a lobbyist or otherwise be subject to Baltimore County laws and structure and so on, we are registered in other jurisdictions. And therefore, I think I've probably got a little bit of experience as someone who is subject to other jurisdictions, ethics laws and rules, which might be useful to the work of the commission. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Others, I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lauria. And last but certainly not least, Commissioner Cindy Leopard.
Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to see everybody. And it is very much my honor to be here among you. I'm a lawyer too, been practicing law for 40 years. I do business law and business litigation. It happens that I also serve on another commission, the Ethics Commission of Baltimore County. I've served on the commission since, I believe, 2019, and I have been the chair of it since 2020. The other thing that occurs to me may be somewhat relevant in my background, perhaps, is that for some years now, I'm not really sure how many, I have served on the Ethics Committee of the Maryland State Bar Association, which, for example, writes opinions when lawyers who want to do the right things wonder what that might be. And with that, I guess I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Leopard. And unfortunately, the 8th member of our commission, Judge Joseph Murphy, will not be able to join us today. But this is certainly an august group, and you bring a lot of wealth, I should say, of expertise and knowledge to this task. And so I look forward to working with each one of you. This commission is staffed by the Schaefer Center for Public Policy at the University of Baltimore. And so I'm going to ask at this time if Dr. Ann Cotton will please introduce her team and tell us more about their role.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. It's a pleasure to meet everyone, and I appreciate the time you're investing in this important task. I'm the director of Schaefer Center for Public Policy at the University of Baltimore College of Public Affairs. The Schaefer Center for Public Policy is a nonpartisan applied research and public service organization that leverages the expertise of the university community in its work to inform decision makers through applied research, develop public servants through its training programs, promote public discourse through policy analysis and conferences, and prepare students for careers in public service through its Maryland Public Service Academy. Our role in staffing the commission is to, one, maintain the website, email, and confidential public comment portal for the commission. We also schedule and host the meetings for the commission, and we'll be using the University of Baltimore Zoom to do that. We'll also prepare and issue agendas on behalf of the commission. We document commission proceedings. We issue invitations to presenters on behalf of the commission. And we're also responsible for conducting background research on best practices and sharing that research with the commissioners. And we'll also be conducting the county's first ever ethics climate survey of employees and people covered by ethics laws in the county. And we're also providing support for you as commissioners in drafting the final report and its recommendations. So the recommendations are yours, but the assistance in helping to put together the final document is something we're responsible for. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you two of the people that will be working with us and working with the commission. First, Dr. Sarah Fissonets. She's a research associate in the Schaefer Center. Dr. Fissonets is the lead researcher on our best practices research, and will be working on the analysis of the ethics climate survey. And Ms. Savannah Smith is a Schaefer Center graduate fellow and a second-year law student at the University of Baltimore. And she'll be assisting with the best practice research and providing support for the commission. Does anyone have any questions about our role before I turn it back over to Chairman Johnson?
Okay. If not, thank you so much, Dr. Cotton, and thank you to your staff for all of the work that you've already been doing and that you will continue to do in staffing our commission. This time, we're going to hear from Mr. James Benjamin, who is the Baltimore County Attorney. And Mr. Benjamin will provide us with an overview of the source of authority and the functions of the Baltimore County Auditor, Baltimore County Inspector General, and the Baltimore County Ethics Commission. So Mr. Benjamin, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, commission members, Dr. Cotton, Schaefer Center, members of the community. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening, and I want to thank the members of the commission for their service. I've been asked to provide information about the statutory authority for the Office of County Auditor, the Office of Inspector General, and the Ethics Commission, as well as the areas of responsibility for each as defined in the code and areas of overlap in the responsibilities for each. And my hope is that this information will assist each of you as you all undertake your very important work on this commission. So I'll start with the Office of the County Auditor. It's established pursuant to Section 311 of the Charter, and the powers and duties of the Office of County Auditor are listed under Article 2, Title 2 of the County Code. The County Auditor may assist the external auditor in conducting financial audits of all offices, departments, institutions, boards, commissions, and other agencies of county government. If directed by a majority of the County Council, the County Auditor may conduct a financial audit of an organization funded in whole or in part by county funds. The County Auditor may also conduct operational and performance audits as assigned and directed by the County Council. And on completion of any operational and performance audit, the County Auditor is required to prepare an audit report in writing. With regard to the inspection of records, officers, agents, and employees of the county shall make all records and files relating to the receipt and expenditure of county funds open to the inspection of the County Auditor at all times. An office, department, board, commission, institution, or agency that's funded in whole or in part by county funds shall make all records and files relating to its powers, duties, activities, organization, management, and performance open to the inspection of the County Auditor at all times. An office, department, institution, board, commission, and other agency of the county shall make its property, equipment, and facilities open to the inspection of the County Auditor at all times. There is a duty to cooperate with the County Auditor under the County Code, and retaliation is prohibited. Audits shall be conducted in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards, and the auditor, the County Auditor, and the auditor staff shall be considered independent. So that's the highlight of the duties and responsibilities for the office and the county office of the County Auditor and the County Auditor itself. With regard to the Office of the Inspector General, that's created by Article 3, Title 14 of the Code. It was originally named the Office of Ethics and Accountability, but it was renamed Office of the Inspector General in 2020. Its purpose is to provide increased accountability and oversight in the operations of county government by identifying fraud, abuse, and illegal acts in the county government and ways to promote efficiency, accountability, and integrity in county government. The Inspector General is selected by the county executive and is approved by the council. The IG serves for a term of 5 years and may not serve more than 2 full terms. The IG may be removed by the county executive before the expiration of the term only for cause, subject to the approval of the county council by a vote of a majority +1 of the members of the council. The Inspector General also serves as the executive director of the Ethics Commission and shall supervise the operations of the administrative staff of the Office of Inspector General, including the hiring, direction, and discharge of all office staff members in accordance with county personnel laws. The responsibilities of the Inspector General are to evaluate, investigate, and inspect the activities, records, and individuals with contracts, procurements, grants, agreements, and other financial or programmatic arrangements undertaken by or on behalf of county government. Responsibilities are also to conduct criminal, civil, and administrative investigations, to provide information and evidence that relates to criminal acts to appropriate law enforcement officials, to initiate reviews of operations of county government as deemed appropriate, conduct joint investigations and projects with the county auditor and other oversight and law enforcement agencies, to issue public reports, to establish policies and procedures to guide functions and processes conducted by the office, and to provide support to the County Ethics Commission. The powers of the Office of Inspector General include the right to obtain full and unrestricted access to all records, information, data, reports, plans, projections, matters, contracts, memoranda, correspondence, and any other materials including electronic data of county government. The powers of the office also include the right of access to the head of any public entity when necessary for purposes of work related to the work of the Office of the Inspector General, and also the power to require county employees to cooperate with the office's investigations regarding fraud, waste, corruption, illegal acts, and abuse. The office and the IG may also issue subpoenas. Investigations, inspections, and reviews shall be subject to quality assurance reviews by an appropriate professional, nonpartisan, objective group every 3 to 5 years. The Ethics Commission is created by Article 3, Title 3 of the County Code, and the public ethics laws are set out in Article 7, Title 1 of the Code. The Ethics Commission is established for the purpose of guarding against improper influence. It's empowered to receive and review financial disclosures and lobbyist disclosures and reports, and it sets minimum standards for the conduct of county business by public officials. The Ethics Commission can issue advisory opinions, and they can receive and act on complaints of violation of ethics laws. They may file complaints on its own motion. They can have the executive director investigate complaints. They can conduct hearings and issue subpoenas, and they may also issue rules and regulations. And they also to provide ethics training. So with regard to this question of overlap, with regard to the IG and the county auditor, the county auditor has the authority to conduct operational and performance auditing of county departments and agencies, and to report any irregular or improper procedure discovered to the county council and to the county executive. The county auditor has the ability to do this under the code. I am not sure whether, in addition to fiscal notes, as far as the submission of reports, what involvement the county auditor has, and the ways in which the county auditor and the IG, or the Inspector General, work together. I would recommend, as part of your discussions and your meetings, to invite the county auditor as well as the Inspector General to speak with you on those issues. And with regard to the IG at the Ethics Commission, as I said, the IG serves as the executive director of the Ethics Commission. The IG and the Office of the Inspector General provide support to the County Ethics Commission. It's my understanding that the Ethics Commission is limited to enforcing the provisions of the ethics law in Title VII, and this may or may not include fraud, waste, and abuse, but most often it involves people failing to file disclosures or inadvertently engaging in prohibitive behavior because they may not realize that their actions violate the law. So I didn't know whether or not Commissioner Leopard or Chair Leopard, I should say, would have anything additional with regard to the Ethics Commission. But those are, I think, the key points that this group should consider as part of its review of this of the Inspector General, the best practices. I think it'll be helpful to keep these in mind as you go about your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. We'll have an opportunity for the commissioners to ask any questions that they may have. I do have one question, just to kind of start us off, and just to make sure that I'm hearing clearly, understanding clearly with regard to the code as it speaks to the county auditor and its interaction with the Inspector General. There is no specific language with regards to interaction between those two offices. The auditor doesn't have to necessarily make a referral to the Inspector General if they feel necessary, and there's no process necessarily in place for that, as far as you know, and vice versa, if the IG feels that something should be referred to the auditor.
Well, the IG has the, she can make recommendations to the county executive and the county council that would assist in the promotion of accountability and integrity in county government. They can also refer matters as appropriate to further to appropriate administrative and prosecutorial agencies, different administrative actions. So if there's information that the IG feels would be pertinent for the county auditor to review, the IG would be within their right under the code to be able to refer that information or that piece to the county auditor. But as far as what the working relationship between the IG and the county auditor, it would be helpful, I think, for the auditor as well as the IG to be able to speak specifically to that. But they have the discretion under the code, it would appear to me, to be able to do that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions for the county attorney? Mr. Lauria, Commissioner Lauria, I'm sorry.
John will be fine, but
Yeah.
Mr. Benjamin, can we just make sure we either get copies or post copies of all the relevant statutes? I assume you'll do that as a matter of course.
Yes.
But it would just be useful to be able to review them in writing as well.
I'd be happy to circulate that to the group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Hearing none, thank you so much, Mr. Benjamin, for your presentation. And I'm sure that if we have further questions, we will certainly contact you again.
Absolutely. And thank you again, all of you, for your commitment and your work that you're going to do. This very important work on this commission.
Thank you.
Chairman
Yes,
Johnson,
I'm sorry, yes.
yes, I just wanted to also say thank you. I'm going to depart as well. And thank you, and all have a good rest of the session and a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Rogerson. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to just share the charge of the commission so that we're clear or a little clearer on the work that we're called to do. Per County Executive Oshesky, this independent commission is charged with evaluating Baltimore County's existing ethics laws and laws concerning the Office of Inspector General and provide recommendations to ensure existing policies align with national best practices and identify any additional policies, functions, or innovative practices to strengthen existing laws. So specifically, we will be reviewing Article 3, Title 14, Inspector General, as well as Article 7, Public Ethics and Open Government of the County Code, and making recommendations to align the code with recognized best practices in government ethics and accountability. I do want to make it clear that it is not our purpose or intent in any way to evaluate the performance of the current Office of Inspector General or the Ethics Commission, but it is to determine nationally recognized best practices that can be utilized by the county going forward. So the commission will accomplish its work in several ways. First, through fact-finding, including presentations to and meetings of the commission. We will have two subcommittees, one subcommittee being the Inspector General Operations Process and Procedure Subcommittee, and the second one being Organizational Structure and Oversight Subcommittee. And we have spoken with two of our commissioners with regards to chairing those subcommittees, and they have agreed to do so. And so we're grateful to General Burkhead, who will be chairing our Organizational Structure and Accountability Subcommittee, and Judge Kathleen Cox, who will be chairing our Policy, Process, and Procedure Subcommittee. And then we will ask members of the commission to serve on those two subcommittees. And I think I'll go ahead and just tell you the persons that we would like to work on those subcommittees so that you'll have an idea. We're going to ask if you would, Commissioner, and John, you said John is okay. Let me clarify that with the other commissioners. Do you prefer to be called commissioners, or are we a first name basis? How do we want to? For me, William or Will is fine. So is that okay? Okay. So so John and Thomas, we would ask both of you to serve with Ms. Burkhead on the Organizational Structure and Accountability Subcommittee. And then we will ask Joanne and Cindy if you would work with Judge Cox on the Policy, Process, and Procedure Subcommittee. Any objections to that from anyone? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We will also, and we'll talk some more, about the subcommittees at a later point and give you some more information with regard to that. But we will also review the findings of the Ethics Climate Survey, and that survey, and I don't know, Dr. Cotton, if you want to talk some more about that, but that survey is being conducted by UB. Or Ms. Vincent, Sarah, either of you, if you want to talk at this point more about that.
Certainly, I'm happy to do that. The Ethics Climate Survey, this is the first of its kind, to our knowledge, being conducted in Baltimore County. So it has a couple components to it. One is to assess knowledge about Ethics Commission and the Inspector General and county ethics law. So what do county employees and people covered by the ethics law know about that? How have they participated in training, and whether that training was useful in decision-making for them? Any experiences they've had with reporting ethical misconduct. So have they done that? When have they done it? And when have they done it? And what was the experience or outcome in terms of how the issue was addressed? Was it, and how the investigation was handled? And this survey is going to be completely anonymous. So we're not looking for names or anything like that. What we're really looking for is understanding, experience, and process. We also want to understand people's beliefs about how reports of ethical misconduct might be handled. So we want to know whether or not people are comfortable reporting ethical misconduct, whether they're concerned about retaliation. So how do they feel about the climate around ethical misconduct and ability to report that? And then finally, sources of advice on ethical dilemmas. So if an employee or a board member or an official has an ethical dilemma, where do they think they can go to get advice on those ethical issues, and where have they gone in the past? And then a general ethics climate in the workplace. So we have a series of questions about behavior they see in the workplace, the climate for supporting or not supporting ethical behavior. So we think that this survey will give a good picture about, it's kind of the voice of employees about their experiences with ethics in the county and how their feelings about the ethical climate. And we expect to have the survey to the commission in late August. And we're looking to have it administered in June to July. We'll be happy to share a copy of the draft instrument with commissioners for feedback if you'd like. We can do that in the next couple of days. And then and the last part of that survey is we're going to have an opportunity for participants to provide open-ended feedback. So if there's anything about the ethical climate that we didn't ask in the survey, there's an opportunity for them to do that. Anyone have any questions about that survey? It'll be administered electronically, and the list of people to whom it'll be administered will be provided by the county.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, where the survey instrument, where did it come from? Who created it? Is it tested? Yeah, I heard you say you didn't think that anyone else had done anything like this.
In the county. So Sarah, can you answer that about where the questions came from?
Yes, the questions come from a survey that was conducted of employees in Illinois state government by a university there. They conducted it for several different divisions of the government.
And other questions are from ICMA. So it used to be for the International Council and City and County Managers Association, but now they just go by ICMA, so they just use their initials. So they had an ethics climate survey that they have also administered. And the Schaefer Center also has a survey. We've been doing survey research for the past 25 years. So this is an area that we know a lot about.
What's the timeline?
Timeline, we expect to have it in the field in the next couple weeks, and then finished report by August, end of August. So in time for you to do, for once the fact finding, this is like the last piece of fact finding.
Well, are there interviews along with that? I know you said it was anonymous, but are there, does a person get an opportunity to say, I'd like to be interviewed, or provide additional comments in
At
person?
this point, no, but if the commission feels that that's important, we certainly can add that.
John?
Yeah, it's good that it's anonymous, but is there, like, are we collecting any other information? It'd just be good to know, like, in some way, if you think it won't impact the way that people respond, like are people being trained differently in different departments and so forth? Just something to give us a more full, like, picture of what's actually happening within all the divisions of government.
So we are collecting some limited demographic information, the employees, organization they work for, how long they've been there, some basic demographic information. We're also asking if they've attended the training. There's a standard ethics training offered by the county. So we'll be asking them if they've attended that as well.
Okay, John?
I think you had said you were planning to share the instrument with us. I don't know what I could contribute to that instrument, but perhaps others could. And I wonder whether you're planning to circulate it just for either comments, or if people have specific questions, at least to raise with you for consideration. I don't know what the process is to finalize the instrument. The kinds of questions that Janine, for example, is asking might be something that could cause you to tweak the survey. And similarly, you might push back and say, no, that's not the way surveys are done. And I defer to that, but I just wonder if it makes sense so that we don't finish it and then say, oh, we should have just asked this question. So tell us about that.
So I'm happy to share this with the commission. I'll share it through our email box, and you can provide feedback directly through that box about any comments. And if the feedback is more kind of perfunctory and things that we just missed, and that's obvious, we can just go ahead and fix that and provide a marked up copy to the commission showing how those changes were made. If it looks like there's anything that's an issue of substance, we can actually have a short meeting about that as a commission.
Okay. Any other questions with regards to the survey?
I do have one more question. I don't know the number of employees that would fall under the requirement to take the ethics training. Do you know that number for the county?
I do not know that. I can certainly find that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cotton. And so then we will also conduct a review of best practices, and that review will include best practice research that's also being conducted by the Schaefer Center. And so they have begun some research, and will continue doing some research on that and bringing that information back to us. And we'll have an opportunity to review what they're finding in terms of national best practices. And then presentations, we will have presentations from national experts on the structure, organization, and operation of local inspectors general offices. And we emphasize local because, as you know, there are federal offices of inspectors general, and they can be very different in terms of how they are structured and how they operate from the local, state, and local offices. And so we look forward to that information. So Janine, I see your hand still up. Is that from the last time, or do you have another question? Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay. And then we will end with deliberations and recommendations. We will develop those recommendations together. We deliberate, of course, on the information that we've gathered, and we will develop recommendations together with assistance from Schaefer Center, and put together a report that will then go to the county executive. And so as part of our work, the commission will start by examining the following issues and questions. And so we're just kind of giving you this as our broad framework to begin, and you have an opportunity, of course, to add to this. And so under organizational structure, one of the questions we will be looking at is, how is the Office of Inspector General organized? And then under independence, should the Ethics Commission be an independent entity? As you heard earlier, the Ethics Commission falls under the purview of the Inspector General, or the Office of the Inspector General. And so we want to just ask that question, should that commission be an independent entity? We want to look at resources. What is the current budget and staff for the Office of Inspector General and the Ethics Commission? Does the OIG need additional resources? If so, what's needed? And should the Ethics Commission be staffed separately? And so that kind of rolls back to the other question. And then on the current practices, what we want to know what prompts in IG investigation currently, and then we also want to look at best practices nationally in terms of what prompts an IG investigation. What are the appropriate boundaries for communication about investigations? With regard to investigations, what is the process for deciding if an issue is a personnel matter, a business operations issue, or an issue that should be subject to an investigation? Just how are those determinations made? Then on the performance and accountability, we would like to take a look at what are the appropriate performance metrics for local inspectors general, and should there be formal accountability or oversight of the Office of Inspector General. Then under authority, we want to look at whether or not there are overlaps in the roles of the Inspector General and the county auditor, and if so, how are distinctions made? And should there be any limits on the IG's access to protected personal identifiable information and or the Inspector General's public release of personal or privileged information? And then what are or what should be the rights and obligations of employees and contractors regarding investigations conducted by the Office of Inspector General? And so those are the questions that we're starting out with. And so this point in our meeting, just want to throw it out to all of you. If you have any additional questions, if you think some of the questions should be modified, or if you think some of the questions should be deleted, if you feel that they're not appropriate or useful. And so at this time, we'll open that up to you. Nice, Joanne?
Question, but more, can we get a copy? I was trying to jot everything down as you were reading it, but can we get a copy of the questions that you're kind of starting with?
I
And
can share the screen right now. We actually can send a copy, but I can also share my screen right now. So we can.
okay, that would be helpful, because I think I was going to say the other comment was going to be, without creating additional work, but if we could have some visuals or something we could pull up during the meeting, that would help a lot.
Thank you, Joanne, and my apologies. Yeah, we should have done that before. And Kathleen, I see your hand while screen is being shared.
Just a question whether there are existing internal policies and procedures for those offices right now. I know particularly for the IG's office, because it's a fairly recent role. Do they have written policies and procedures?
They do. Yes, and we can share those.
I was going to say, I think it would be helpful as we're looking at it to see what their written stuff is.
Okay. And so Dr. Cotton has shared her screen, and you can see the questions there. So if you want to take a moment to look at those.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
This is, I'm just looking at this for the first time and I don't know the structure, which is probably a good thing in the long run. But I just, for example, under resources, you say, what is the current budget and staff for the IG and Ethics Commission? Additional resources, should it be staffed separately? But that question is not really asked, for example, for the auditor. I just don't know whether we're supposed to have perfectly parallel questions for each of these three offices, or whether someone who knows the structure better than I would say, no, it's not really parallel. They're different questions. I mean, obviously, it's not perfectly parallel in that the overlap, question might only make sense when you're talking about the IG and the auditor. But when you talk about resources, why the IG and Ethics Commission and not the auditor? So I'm not sure from where the charge is coming, if we've been asked specifically by the executive in an order or a writing to look at certain things, in which case, we can focus on those things unless there's a really compelling reason to go beyond it, or whether we should be, kind of asking the kinds of questions that I'm asking. And an example of it would be in that resource question, which is, why just 2 of the 3 if we're talking about resources? Is there a reason for that?
I think that's a good question. I know that the issues with the Ethics Commission and the Office of Inspector General arise because the Ethics Commission is a part of the Office of Inspector General. And one of the things that we want to determine is whether or not those should be separate. And I believe that in the history of the county that the Ethics Commission existed first, and Dr. Cotton, you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong. And then when the Office of Inspector General was created, I think they kind of took the Ethics Commission's, the code that referred to the Ethics Commission, and just changed the name basically to Office of Inspector General. And so to some extent. And so I think that's why that came up. And the county auditor is a separate entity. That's not to say that we cannot ask, similar questions with regard to the county auditor as we're looking for areas of overlap. And Dr. Cotton, if you have any additional response to that, feel free, please, based on what you've. Okay. And I see something in the chat. So.
Yeah.
Not okay.
So one of the issues is that issue that an inspector general, because of its oversight responsibility, a question of independence has to do with their budget and how the budget gets determined, whether they have sufficient resources to do their work. I think that's why this is pulled out, particularly to make sure that to see if there's some standard metric for judging or assessing what level of resources should be provided to that office.
John, does that get to your question at all?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, look, I'm just asking. I'm just looking at this one piece of paper. I mean, it seems like there's a greater focus here on the IG and the Ethics Commission, which are newer, which are probably still evolving much more so than the auditor, which is probably a core function of county government, and I'll bet has been one for a while. So, that may make total sense that the questions we're being asked are sort of as this IG Ethics Commission structure and function has been put in place. It's been in place for a while. It's already evolved once with change in 2020. Let's kind of keep that going in the right direction. And the auditor probably, you can't avoid the issue because the auditor is relevant to this, but maybe the auditor is just not really the focus of the inquiry here. Is that a fair statement or summary?
I think that's a fair summary. However, if we feel that, we need that additional information in order for our work to be more effective, then I think it's appropriate that we ask the question. And so if that's a question that you think should be added, by all means.
Well, again, and I'll defer to others, but I'm not suggesting, to go back to my earlier point, that we should have a parallel question for the auditor for all of these. I'm just trying to get my head around sort of where our focus is, and maybe this will become more evident. So, Mr. Chair, what you're saying is fine, and what you're saying is fine, and we'll just sort of keep our eye on that question. That would be fine for me.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's the important part. This is kind of a starting point. So as I share this information and everyone looks at it, if you have other issues that should be addressed, I can certainly add that to documentation for the commission to consider.
Yeah, these questions were not meant to be the end all and be all of questions, that we would ask. It's really meant to be more of a guide based on, based on what we were asked to do. So again, if there are, other questions that you feel we should ask, If there's some questions on here that you feel perhaps are not appropriate, then by all means, let's talk about it. Or even to be modified. So any other discussion with regard to the questions?
I might have missed it. Just want to make sure, back to John's point. So the questions, we'll be able to take a closer look at that and really consider what we're adding or taking away. Am I correct? And then we'll suspense it to get it back to you, Mr. Chair. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes, yes. So we will get these questions out to you to take a closer look at, and we can discuss them at our next meeting. Is that fair? Okay.
I have a question
Yes.
under professional accountability. Should there be accountability or oversight of the IG's office? I mean, are we asking whether or not the IG should be independent? I'm not understanding, yeah, the oversight piece.
Mhm.
If it's independent, yeah. Or does it go back to the ethics piece around whether or not the commission should be independent? I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, I think it's looking at the level of independence of both, whether the Ethics Commission should be independent, but also how, and as a former Inspector General, I'd say all offices of Inspector General have to have a level of independence, or you know, in order to be effective. Otherwise, they're not going to be effective. But the question is, should there be some level of accountability that does not take away its independence, but that still holds it accountable for ensuring, you know, that it's functioning properly. And again, that's not a statement saying that there should be. It's asking the question, should there be? And if so, what should that look like? And so we you know, again, we want to see if there's anything out there nationally, you know, and again, best practices that would guide us on that question. Does that respond to your question, Joanne?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions with regards to the questions or comments with regard to the questions? Okay, so again, we will make sure to, Dr. Catton, we will get these out to everyone so that you can take a closer look at them, and we can hold some further discussion with regards to them. Because those are the questions that will guide the work of the subcommittees. Again, subcommittee on organizational structure and accountability, because that commission, that subcommittee rather, will address the questions that are raised regarding the current structure of the OIG, as well as the current structure of the Ethics Commission. And it will also address the questions regarding accountability for both entities, and that will be done through interviews and fact gathering. So the subcommittees will conduct its own interviews of various individuals. And then the Policy Process and Procedures Subcommittee will address the questions raised regarding investigative and other processes, procedures, and policies of the OIG and of the Ethics Commission. And again, this will be done through interviews and through fact gathering. Then those subcommittees will bring your information back to the larger group so that we can vet and discuss your findings. And so we are still in the process, of course, of organizing these subcommittees. I think I've already given you the chairpersons and the individuals who will serve on each subcommittee. And we can have further discussion about that at a later time as well. And so over the next 2 weeks, we will work on specific schedule of meeting topics, and we will organize again the work of the subcommittees because you will have separate meetings, and we'll talk to you some more about that. And so at this time, unless there are other questions or comments or concerns, I'm going to ask Dr. Cotton to go over the commission website and also how the public can communicate with the commission.
Thank you. So this is the commission website. The website includes The purpose of the commission, the list of commission members, and then commission documents. So everything about the commission will be here. All the documents related to the commission will be here and easy to find. We have commission meetings. So all the meetings are listed here. There's a registration link. So we'll be posting the registration link for the next meeting in the next week or so. Meeting agendas appear here. And in addition to the meeting agenda, when minutes are approved, they'll appear here. The video from the meetings will also appear here as well. And there's a couple ways to contact the commission. There's this contact the commission link here. And that's where people who want to contact the commission provide an email address. This is like any type of website contact form. There's information, they can put information here. And then in addition to that, at the bottom, there's a link to contact the commission anonymously. And when you click on this, this goes to the Schaefer Center, and it basically is through our survey software. It's an anonymous link here. So any type of comments that someone wants to provide, they can. And if they can do it anonymously, but if they want someone to contact them, they also can click here on the contact box and then provide their contact information. So that's another way that people can contact the commission. And then in addition to that, as I said earlier, when we do the ethics climate survey, participants can provide additional information there. And then there's the commission email address, which is blueribbonethics@uvault.edu. And we'll put that in the chat, and people can email directly to the commission through that website, that email link. Do you have any questions about that? It's kind of as we're organizing, we'll start filling out all these pieces of information. And then in addition to that, we're, as I mentioned earlier, doing the best practices research. So we're looking at the offices of Inspector General across the country, looking at local offices of Inspector General with a number of questions about organizational structure, process, oversight, levels of autonomy, how they're organized, how they're created. So what type of authority they have that created those offices. And that information I think will be useful, because one of the things that we find in our research is there's lots of variation in how offices of Inspector General are organized across the country. So there's no one set standard. And I think that's important. And it seems like they are often organized based on whatever the situation was that created them to begin with, why they were created. And that has a lot to do with how they end up being organized. And we also have a national expert who will be speaking to the commission on her research. This is her area of research for most of her professional career. So she'll be talking to the commission after you do some of your fact finding, because at that point you'll actually have informed questions. So she'll be able to answer questions that you might have. And we can pose questions to her in advance if there's particular questions that you want answered. Any questions so far? Yes. I can't hear you. Is your phone on mute? You're on mute. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, what is the expected time frame in terms of doing your research on best practices around the country and getting that to us?
Great question. Thank you. It's 95% done. So I think we should have it by mid-July, mid to end July. Sarah, is that, am I incorrect about that?
No, it should, that sounds about right. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? John, you don't think you have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
I had an unrelated question, so I was waiting for the next, for the unrelated opportunity.
I guess we're close to the unrelated opportunities. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
Aside from our next meeting date, I have nothing else that I need to cover.
Mr. Chair, I just want to mention, I did locate online 2 annual reports from the current Inspector General for fiscal year 21 and for the prior year, fiscal 2020, when it was still called the Office of Ethics and Accountability. I have not had a chance to read them, but they seem sort of compact and relevant and, interesting sort of background. And so I don't know, I just wondered if we could make those available to folks in whatever way we're making things available, so people can take a look at them. They're both fairly short, but look like a good summary to me of a little context, especially for those of us who are not as familiar with this particular office as others might be.
Absolutely. Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so Ann, do you want to talk about the next meeting? And then we'll.
Yes, our next full meeting of the commission is June 30th, and it's 5:30 to 8:30. That meeting will be longer. We've invited the current Inspector General we will be inviting the current Inspector General to speak. She knows that she's being invited, but I haven't issued the actual written invitation yet. So she'll be getting that in the next day or so. So this is an opportunity for her to talk about her office and any problems, questions, concerns that she might have, and really speak more directly to the operations of her office. And it's will help, I think, give the commission a nice overview about the work that she's doing and give you an opportunity to ask questions specifically about that office and her work.
Okay. So are there any additional comments or questions from commission members? John, I think you had no, did you address what you had? Okay. 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 All right. So yes.
Janine and Joanne.
This is Janine. I had a quick question. Will we get, will there be a read ahead for her presentation, or we'll just get it fresh that day?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of what you said.
Will there be a read ahead for her presentation?
We can ask for that, yes. And in addition to that, we'll have the reports and other documentation that we've talked about tonight. So all that will be together in a packet for you. And if anyone prefers to get hard copies, you can let us know and we can print those and ship them. If you don't want hard copies, we can send them electronically, or you can have both. And you don't need to answer that right now. We'll send out a message and then you can respond to that and say how you prefer to get your information.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I add one more thing? I'm sorry, folks. I promise not to ask as many questions going forward, but
that's okay.
Ian, when you all put together your report, I mean, can I just ask you in advance for sort of, I don't know how you're going to organize it, but if you could help identify the sort of major fields of inquiry, and you're probably going to do this, and I don't know what they are yet, but they sound things like, who do they report to, hiring and firing authority, whatever those categories are that are sort of the major things you have to think about when you're creating this kind of office and structure. So perhaps you're going to do that already, but if you can it would be helpful to me to have some organizational structure along those lines, whatever those categories naturally seem to be, that might distinguish, one operation from another across the state or the country or wherever you're looking.
Yes, we were planning on doing that and doing that probably before the next meeting, just to give an outline of kind of where we're going. Yeah. I can tell you a little bit of the generalities. We're going to do some history about the office, how it came about, the legislative history of the office, about its work. And then we're going to be looking at focusing on the taxonomy of Inspector General, offices of Inspector General. And in those major areas is how we'll be focusing the aspect of the report that relates to the Inspector General office. And that's an important component of this because this is the newest office and one where if there's any legislative changes, we want to make sure that that's grounded in best practice, and if there are none needed, that's grounded in best practice. And then another section of that will be the ethics climate survey, the key findings, and then those key findings will point to whether or not anything needs to be done. So if it turns out that people are think that the climate for supporting ethical behavior is challenging, then that might indicate a need for changes in training. If they are concerned about reporting, that might mean that we need to recommend some changes and how people learn about the reporting process and how they write their rights under the reporting process, things like that. So the survey will give us some information about that. And then I think from the work of the subcommittees, might be some more additional information that we'll want to include in the report. But yes, I will send us an outline of the general structure of the report so you kind of know where we're going. I think that's a really important thing for the commission to know. And I appreciate you asking the question, and we were planning on taking care of that. But
Thank
good
you.
to ask. I want to make sure we're on the same page because our job is to help you do your job.
Yes. Joanne, you had a question?
Yes, I don't know if we have a sense of who, like, I know the IG is coming to present at our next meeting. If we know what other presenters will be joining, like I know I think there's an Association of Inspector General, that it might be worth having someone, I'm not sure how they're structured, but someone from there present. So I guess it's more, do we have an opportunity to request speakers and so forth?
Yes, you absolutely do. And we've been working on a list of speakers based on what we think will be a minimum of what you need. So we'll be able to share that with you. And then as you identify other people that you want to speak, we can reach out to them. Definitely.
Okay. Any other questions again? Okay, and so again, we want to make sure that it's clear that we're not making any assumptions with regard to what currently exists or what should exist. We're asking questions, we're questioning everything and hoping to come up with best practices so that Baltimore County can have a model, not only model Office of Inspector General, but just in terms of its culture of ethics and accountability, it can be a model governmental agency for that. And so that's our hopes. And so if it sounds like we're asking questions that everybody should already know the answer to, again, we don't want to assume anything, and we want to question everything. So on behalf again of County Executive Oshesky and on behalf of the citizens of Baltimore County, I want to thank each of the members of the commission for volunteering. And I should probably stress that for members of the public that you are volunteering your time, as am I, and your expertise to carry out this important work of the commission. And so if there aren't any other questions from the commission members, then I will ask for or call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, it's been so moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and second that the meeting be adjourned. And so with that, the meeting is adjourned. I'm going to say thank you and everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.